They're just two women. And they have like their radio talk, and they all talk really quietly like this. And they're like, I'd like to get my mouth around this ball. It's like a, you have to watch it to get it. It's pretty funny.
So
we're not talking
a tennis ball.
No, it was like a recipe for like Russian, like cookies or something like that. But the guy's like, this is my famous recipe, my sweaty balls. It's a little loud in my headphones. I don't know if that can be turned down just a little.
Is that better?
Just a little up, a little bit more. Right? Yeah, that's good.
Okay, good.
It's mostly in this one ear.
Did you want to welcome everyone back? Because we are rolling.
We're rolling. Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. This is Rebekah Freedom.
And I'm John Beetham.
And today, I have been marinating, ruminating, and contemplating this week so I could bring a really juicy, good topic. And I have amalgamation of things. And it's all coalesced into the idea of what if your truth is actually a lie?
Okay, great. Let's start there.
Okay, I want to cover the basis because of people listening. This particular topic applies to you if you're trying to lose weight or manipulate your body to be Adonis-like in some way or Aphrodite-like in some way. If you're in the, oh my gosh, it's summertime, I have to be in a bathing suit. Oh no, judge. And for everybody in the Midwest, I know that your white, pale skin is it's glowing in outer space right now. So this is for people who are in that whole manipulation of the body thing. There's also people, this podcast is really going to cover people who are going through it's summer, the hookup, the dating kind of cycle of, and lots of other categories I could run down, which is just wealth, health, prosperity, and spiritual connection. We're just going to kind of, because again, I've been marinating.
Yeah, I really, really love it when you marinate. Because it makes things really so much more tender.
And toasty brown.
Yeah, toasty brown.
So this is how this topic came about. I feel like a little backstory is really great, is that I am in the dating pool, if you will, which at this particular time of the year, if you look at pictures of Las Vegas and the swimming pool, it's just, you see like little bits of water and flesh and just people packed together, but no one relating, really. That's what the dating pool is basically. The dating pool is basically like a swimming pool in Vegas in the middle of summertime. And then every once in a while you bump into somebody and you're like, oh, hi, what's going on? So I've been bumping into people intentionally and unintentionally this year. And one person I started communicating with was just like completely shut off to a physical exchange, and presented very much that was his reality. Like, we're just going to be friends. I'm just no attraction to you. There's nothing. The other end of the...
Did he actually really talk like that?
This is my best impression of him. So, we're just going to be friends. There's not going to be any sex. And if you're listening, you know who you are. And I mean this in the most lighthearted spirit, because I'm full of BS too. Like, it's not to say that I'm, some prophet of some sort that really is sticking the landing on all of these things. But I do know the difference between a truth and a lie. So, do you?
I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get your answer in a minute. I'm curious. And then the other end of the spectrum, and again, I've talked about polyamory and the swinger lifestyle and different things, and people really present that that's their truth and have all sorts of justifications and reasons behind it. Right. But really, deep down, it may not be. So the core kind of coping mechanism, I'm talking about in relation to if your truth, the thing that you're living out, is actually a lie, relates to Sigmund Freud's coping mechanism, which is a reaction formation. Reaction formation. So that just simply means that for me, I grew up with parents that did a bunch of acid and were hippies like early on before, they found Jesus. And I did the reaction formation of like never doing drugs, like versus they went like hard in the paint during their 20s and stuff like that. And I just really didn't go down that road very far. I mean, not to the degree that I had to go to rehab or anything like that. I worked in a rehab.
That's how you got your juice, that juice, right?
That particular juice, exactly. I won't go to rehab. No. So anyway, that would be one example of a reaction formation. Another example is a really strict parent, and then you get a rebellious child, or a really lenient parent, and you get a child that's very disciplined and organized. You see that thing called parentification happen, where if the adult, the caregiver, is disorganized and just wants to be buddy and be friends, you see this kid at a really young age try to step up and be the responsible one and manage mom's emotions or manage dad's emotions. And that is, I feel like it's pretty common, to the degree that a lot of people get their circuits crossed, so they don't really know what living their truth is. So what if that's the reality? Like, what if you're faking it? You're faking it to make it, but you're literally living a life that's just fake. It's just not really in alignment with what your heart is wanting. Like, yeah.
What if? Some people are really, really happy with that. Just like some people that complain a lot, complain that they're unhappy and stuff, but it's a lie. They're actually very happy complaining, right?
So
that's what I observe. I'm so happy for you that you're having all these problems and.
Oh, and then we get into like the pissing match around problems, like
mine are bigger than yours.
Get your mine are 9 inches. Yours are the problems.
How is that a problem? Actually,
oh, John, must we go down the road of anatomy?
We'll do that one later.
We'll reel that one back. So, if people's minds are a little bit scrambled, I want to kind of set them straight and give like the clear definition of truth and alignment. So truth is surrender. That's how I understand truth. Truth is surrender. Like if I have pain in my body, I don't have to label it. I don't have to be like, this is asthma, this is cancer, this is a migraine, this is diverticulitis, this is whatever. I can surrender to be the witness of it coming up, and to let it go, 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 and to you just keep letting it go. You just practice non-attachment. You're just like, oh, it's here and I'm releasing it. It's here, I'm releasing it. I'm here, I'm releasing it. That is such a fundamental aspect of just truth, is clearing the space to not be linked to a particular concept or notion that's really not going to serve you in the long run.
It just brings you down, literally a spiral. It brings you down.
Yeah. So truth is being able to just let go repeatedly. The lie begins with the story. Oh, so, and I've been doing this. I'm like, oh, so I had some trauma last year and now I'm like 10 pounds heavier, and I'm heavier because of the trauma and blah, blah, blah. So my body is just like, okay. Okay. So you want to feel overweight. So we're going to do things like make you mentally, like we'll make decisions that will play into this. We'll make sure that your decisions are along the line of drinking, so that you feel dehydrated, so that you sleep, so that you're lethargic, so that we can have the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So here's the primrose path. You've laid it out. You asked, and you're receiving it. You're receiving it.
It is a principle that most people don't understand. You have a thought, it's sort of like, if you want to take it to the spiritual realm, the body is the same thing, but it's the mind and the spirit are going to say, okay.
Okay.
That's all it's ever said. Okay. It's a yes universe, right?
Yeah. Neale Donald Walsch, and in Conversations with God, he basically explains that if you say, I want to be rich, the universe goes, yes, you do. I see that. Yes. Yes. So truth is, I can't emphasize this enough, and it's surrender. It's surrender. Truth happens right now. It happens in the now. Now. Present moment awareness, coming back to this moment. Master Eckhart Tolle is one of the great leaders of this process. Of course, it does not originate with him. I'd want to really emphasize that this is something that's all encoded in our DNA,
right?
To live to be able to engage with and allow for truth to be the thing that moves us. So there's actual truth, and what I'm talking about in this podcast is like the veneer the persona. There are many different traditions that talk about persona, and when people ask you, so what's your sign? They're asking about your persona. What is your archetype? What is, the characteristics?
Your MO.
Your MO, right? Like,
now that I know your MO, now that I know your persona and your characteristics, now I know what box to put you in.
I can't help but go back to our original podcast on addiction.
Episode 46 on alternativehealthtools.com, the podcast.
Yes. And
by the way, to be clear, we can push people there.
Yes.
But probably not the other way around, because we get a little explicit here.
It gets a bit naughty. I amuse myself sometimes. That's the product of having had 5 years to myself before my sister came along. I'm 5 years older than her.
That explains a lot. Now I understand you. Another box.
You get my persona. Yeah. Oh, so you're the oldest child. Oh, you're a middle child. Oh, you were raised Catholic. Oh, you were raised Irish. Now, what I want to say is that these are energetic lines that have real relevancy. And I'm not diminishing that if you are born a certain ethnicity, or if you're born male or female, or you're cisgendered versus transgendered, or any of these play into this great thing called persona. And that what we're all doing with our persona. So, because I feel like a lot of people might get hung up on this thing like lie and be like, well, I'm being authentic. This is the real me. I'm totally expressed. Glitter sparkles. Which is fine. Again, pardon the sarcasm. It's part of my persona. But the thing is, all we're doing is experimenting. We're just experimenting with, okay, so I have this feeling inside of me, and I'm going to give it some sort of name, and then I'm going to experiment with what story that creates,
and what reflection comes back to you,
and here's my favorite: the drama of Eros, love, right? The three loves: agape, Eros, and phileo. And the drama of that fiery, like sexual, sensual love, that when we like put our energy in that trajectory, the drama is endless. It's endless. The storyline, the plot thickens and twists and turns. It's incredible. It's incredible, and it's full of elation and play. So I want to kind of direct the broadness of this thought to say that we all lie to ourselves and we all trick ourselves into like, oh yeah, I can do this job. At least I'm getting a pension. I'm getting a paycheck. Or, oh, I can live on kale smoothies for the summer. It'll totally work. And then immediately I find myself at like the burrito stand being like, hey, this is the last day. It's always the last day. Or people who are struggling to get sober from a substance, right? There's that idea of like, this is the last hurrah. And we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves because we are invested in the story more than the feeling. I'll say that. Do you get that? Does that land?
Oh yeah, no, I get it.
Okay.
And so, it's like, so basically, you're lying when you're not feeling. So that's it?
The way to really shift is emotion, E being the Latin symbol to move out, motion. So to take that which is inside of you and move it out. And I had the privilege of taking a class called Authentic Movement when I was in my graduate program. And ecstatic dance is one of the great containers where you can go play with this particular modality, meaning that you have the freedom. If your arm's like, I want to go in the air, then your arm goes, up in the air, and where you're like fussy, or whatever, whatever. Or if you want to stomp, you stomp, or if you want to let out a scream, you let out a scream. And I would say that the container of contact improv, ecstatic dance, improv, comedy, any sort of theater really helps with that natural, organic sort of movement of emotion to move out. That's, and you can evoke emotion with the thought, which is so powerful, which is like, if you really watch that relationship, that is, I think, another place where we encounter the seat of truth, where we watch our thoughts do their thing and we watch how they sort of make our emotions rise and fall like the tide. And I want to offer this conversation to those who are listening to say that maybe where you're at or the body you're in is the sum of was's, the was. Your body is the was, and you keep telling the story of what was. And I'm witnessing this because it does take the stages of change to really step into new form. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And to do that is the stages of change are pre-contemplation, where you're like, I'm good. Everything's fine. I don't have a drinking problem. And then, enough stuff goes awry, and then you wake up and you're like, me. Me, I have some bad habits. And then you start preparation, where you get the life coach, you start to DIY, do it yourself, start to read online. A lot of Googling happens at this particular stage. And then there's the action stage where you're in implementation. You're putting the things you prepared into place. This is like the sort of testing stage. And this is where people will start to lose weight. They'll start to get sober. They'll start to actually be in healthy relationships, or they'll be in the attempting of healthy relationships because they're communicating different than they were before. You're practicing a new level of truth in these stages of change. You're practicing that emotion to move out, to take that thing that was shoved back in the shadow and to move it forward. And then there's maintenance. You start to be like, oh, I have a lifestyle change here, right?
Yeah. Becomes a little more permanent.
Yeah, where you, after 21 days of doing this, after 21 days of doing a new habit of whether it's wake up early in the morning or stay up late at night and paint, or whatever your discipline, whatever structure you're providing for yourself is maintenance. But I think this is a really important stage that people don't talk about in the stage of change is relapse. You fall flat on your face, right? down you go. And a lot of people sort of get so discouraged in that.
Because of the relapse.
Yeah.
Is that shame?
Yeah. Shame. I didn't really have it in me. I don't have the commitment.
I can't do this.
I can't do this. I can't do this alone. I'm really alone. I'm by myself in this. And
this brings up all sorts of questions.
Yeah.
Including who are you around? Who are you spending time with? What is considered good support? Right?
Yeah. And I'm sure you've heard it said that you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most.
Of course. And
to be mindful of your circle. And at sometimes that growth means that the leaves fall. The trees are the demonstration of letting go every fall. They just let their leaves go, and the cycle continues. And we try to be evergreen, some of us. So
well, it also, my particular case, it meant letting go of some people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just went.
Yeah, you have to be like, mahalo, blessings.
Yes.
I wish you well. I'm going to stalk you on Instagram and see if you're actually doing well. If you're only doing mediocre, I might feel better about it. But really, 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 I mean it. I'm super spiritual. I hope you're doing well. Namaste, bitch. So, the thing about all of this is, the other realization I had is, if I'm going to step into this avatar that I'm creating for myself called Rebekah Freedom, which is, Rebekah is my real name, and Freedom is my hippie name that was acquired while living in Boulder. And those two together, actually, I think I shared this with you before, but it has an interesting story. Rebekah, the way I spell it, Rebekah, in Jewish tradition actually means deceiver. It means liar. In Celtic tradition, it means enchantingly beautiful. So, take it or leave it, whatever. I'll probably say.
Is there a blend there, do you think?
Depends on the mood.
Yeah. I was going to say. We've talked enough that could be true.
Yeah. And then you blend Rebekah, the energy of that with freedom. And freedom is like to be set free, to let your truth out and be set free. You bring those together. They're really like the energy of like the Tao. So.
No, that's your vibration.
That sort of like dark and light and dark and light and dark and light and dark and light, and being able to go into these like witchy, underground, licentious places, but also to come out with reverence. I think it was described irreverently reverent at some point. Merci beaucoup.
Reverence.
Reveling in the reverence.
Yeah.
So I've been questioning this week. Okay, well, what is this thing that I have to give? What is it that's moving through me? What is the Tao? What is the one taste? Which means the temple is made of the same things as the gutter. So your one-pointed samadhi, your one-pointed focus is the thing that will determine if you experience the temple or the gutter, but both without attachment, just surrendering attachment. And further going into just what this thing called surrender is, and I've come to this awareness because we start out with the question, well, what if your truth is a lie? What is a lie? What is the truth? What is dark? What is light? What is this thing called dichotomy, this dichotomous soup that we live in? And if I'm going to practice the Tao, I'm being called out on the carpet by God, universe, whatever, to go beyond my comfort zone. And I'll share a little bit about that in a second. But I realized that has always been the case, the trajectory since my dad died until now. I keep getting called out to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And I finally was like, that's what I'm doing here. I don't provide people with forever or the fairy tale or the story. It's what's next. Let's work on that thing, the thing that's what's next, what's right. Because I don't know if you've had this feeling of deep confusion or frustration or banality, and then all of a sudden that clarity of what to do next comes.
I have.
Yeah. It's powerful. Yeah. And that is exactly where I sit with my clients and do that process of like, okay, you're going through a breakup. Well, what's next? Okay, so you want to lose weight. Okay, well, what's next? Okay, so you want to access the divine feminine. What's next? Okay, so you want to be fully expressed. Okay, so you want to be fully expressed. So what's next? And freedom. Freedom's next. Freedom's next. Freedom from that place of like black, white, the dichotomy. We're not even talking about gray here. We're talking about like the middle way, the Eightfold Path, the different traditions, but ultimately that thing, that still small voice inside of you that's like ever rising, ever calling you forward.
The knower that knows.
The knower that knows.
Yeah.
The thing that cures disease.
Mm-hmm. So the image I have, and it's in my body, which is why I love doing this podcast with you, is that, one reason anyway, is that as soon as you ask that question, what's next, you just moved to closer to freedom, if not to freedom itself.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the process because it's uncomfortable. And I think that's around the stages of change of relapse. People are like, oh, this is, I had this grand plan in place. I was going to blah, blah, blah. I was going to have the love of my life by age 26. I was going to be divorced by 35. And then find the love of my life at 45. And whatever your template is. I'm just making stuff up as I go along. It's there is, as we learn, the learning curve is uncomfortable. It's not just bliss on top of the mountain the whole time. And this is the point where I'm going to bullet point some examples. So we went to the truth-telling circle or the symposium, and we can put the link up of Edward was the facilitator of that. Yeah. Edward and Jacqueline were the facilitators. And the theme was, here comes the sun. Well, as soon as I'm given an instruction, I immediately want to rebel against it. I'm like, you don't know me.
Yeah, I was sitting right next to you. I could feel it.
And I was like, like a cat. And what showed up was my shadow, like this, like that fierce, collie, like destroyer sort of energy. And when I say it's uncomfortable, I would say that the resistance to either the light or the dark is the discomfort, but the emotion to let that move out and to just be what was true in the moment was deeply satisfying. To the degree, and if you have children in the room, remove them because I'm going to swear. The degree of it that I came home and been holding this mental thought, this space of David Deida's work of being ravished open to God by a man of like intention and the feminine, masculine essence. And I came home after that workshop and I was like, I'm just going to fuck my shadow open to God. And that's why I was like, I know that I have this like light in me, but it will not penetrate anything or anyone until it penetrates my own shadow. Church. So the discomfort is in the transition, the what's next, the I don't know. I don't know. I want to know. I have an addiction to certainty. I want something that's predictable. But if it's too predictable, then I'm going to be bored. And it's going to be somebody else's fault. And I'm going to go through this cycle of blaming and blah, 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 and so on. And then you're out. Your energy is completely blown out into this realm of half-truths, lies, and part and parcel.
Yeah. It's the uncomfort one experiences when the ball is up in the air. And you just don't, it's not in your grasp. Mm-hmm. Somewhere in between.
Are we really controlling anything ever?
That's not been my experience that you can.
When I sit back and I think of the people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and just the great men and women of history, you can't help but think that there was destiny there, that it was intended for that body and that soul to exact that moment in time. The Zig heist, that moment in time where the uprising came, and the 60s are a really good example of that. I feel like millennials, we really have championed handlebar mustaches and bacon. Some version of a cause.
Bacon and maple bars.
Bacon and maple bars. Bacon and everything.
Yeah. So here's my experience with people like Elon. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I follow him. Mm-hmm. Is that some people, it's like they said it couldn't be done. They told him it couldn't be done. I mean, the SpaceX returned the first stage to the landing pad. Are you kidding? It's done. They got some problems. Sometimes it doesn't work, and they're working on it. But it's the vision that is so solid within Elon. And my experience is that, he's a bit all over the map. It's called ADD. I have it. I'm grateful for it. Edison had it. Michelangelo had it. And we drug our children that have it. Mm-hmm. To me, it's a matter of taking whatever's going on with you in that space, in that realm of when the ball's in the air, and just relax.
And to sort of really promote inside yourself curiosity, and in that time where it might be replaced with the urgency of isolation, idle hands are the devil's plaything, by the way, especially when you have an iPhone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have, and this is my experience as an entrepreneur versus having a full-time job, is that having something that is a set structure tends to diminish the idling nature. Now, what I want to say is that creativity actually needs a great bit of space too. So if you're idling, it's just a perspective shift that needs to happen. You're just 1 inch away from massive creativity, right? And mostly you're probably idling because you have an iPhone or a smarty phone of some sort, because there's plenty of things to idle on versus being curious about what's trying to come through you, what's trying to show up.
No, it's really well said. I'm actually reflecting on this last week. Mm-hmm. More and more people are using Facebook for messaging. Mm-hmm. So now I counted. I have 8 ways of distraction to keep. 8 ways for people to message me or contact me. 8 ways.
Yeah.
And only one of them doesn't include technology.
No one is, yeah, well, not.
Strange.
People are strange when you're a stranger.
When you're a stranger.
So as we're talking about this, the other person that is coming up for me that could be possibly listening to this is the quote unquote desperate housewife who has a husband that's doing really well. Or conversely, she's very much committed to her career, pulling in millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, has all the different components in place, the daycare, the after school things, and in the particular place that we live in Encinitas, California, Del Mar, Solana Beach, North County, San Diego, there's a great deal of prosperity and wealth here, and people that this is their lifestyle of acquisition, of just acquire, and
right. You're talking tangible levels.
Yeah, very tangible.
Because there's a lot of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people living here that spend all their day in the surf, and that has a wealth to its own. But what you're talking about is something, people with money.
Yeah, I mean, the laptop entrepreneurs are here. The coffee shop rogues or whatever are here as well. And please know that I have absolutely no disdain or judgment. I feel like thank you for driving your Lamborghinis and your Ferraris through my neighborhood. Can I have a ride sometime? Because they're amazing.
I do notice the Teslas over all those.
Which so popular out here.
Oh man, they're all over.
They're all over, and especially now that the new ones are coming out. The $35,000 Teslas are coming out. So I imagine the quote unquote, and I apologize for the title, the desperate housewife, that's just engaged in so many activities and stretched so far, and who married a husband under the guise of this is our fairy tale life, and maybe we'll get to really enjoy each other when we're retired, and some people who are using sex as a barter or a service, like, okay, well, I guess it's Wednesday sex day, and that the actual beauty is all around, but not necessarily thriving inside such a chaotic world. And the reason that this comes to mind is because it's threatening. It's a threatening conversation to be like, holy crap, what if my truth is a lie? Like, what if this is like not the life that this is not really it? I want to say for some people it really is. They're meant to be the philanthropists, and they're meant to be the on the board of running charities, and they're meant to be our political figures. And this really is how consciousness wants to present itself through you. And there's a lot of I think, again, personas you can step into: the jock, the rich person, the yogini, and it just is sort of adjacent to who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Adjacent is a good word.
Mm. I like to read the stars. I can't pronounce the thesaurus, but I like to read it.
You just read it by itself?
When you're a writer.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
Yeah, word porn is amazing when I learn like new words. And I would say one of the people that, one of the actors that's really good with words is Robert Redford.
Oh, yeah.
Redford.
Yeah.
Our old boyfriend and I watched Out of Africa, and he would say these phrases that were so succinct and delivered with such like grace and power. So anytime a phrase was spoken that felt like truth rattling in your bones, we'd be like, Redford.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite actors for the very reason. Terence McKenna's pretty good too.
Yeah.
Have you heard much of him?
I haven't delved into the realm of...
A little different.
Yeah, of TM yet. So to sort of go through the bullet points of this, right? That the truth will set you free, but it'll piss you off first. And it will maybe threaten the life that you've built for yourself, and the consequences of actually letting it unravel. And I'm not saying you have to. You don't. You can live the persona and just let that be the arc of this lifetime. That's fine. But if you don't want to do that, if that's really like you're curious about the other thing, I feel like I'm just coming into the awareness that, oh, well, that's why I'm a psychic medium. And that's why I went to Naropa to get my degree in like a mindfulness training. And that's why the amalgamation of the events in my life, the ones that have hurt me the most, that I have come back from like a freaking phoenix. I'm like, all of that together is that's how consciousness wants to move through me. I want to be able to handhold people in that moment where they're just like, I'm in a relationship and I thought, oh yay, I got the girl, this is bliss, only to figure out that you're with somebody who is a pain in the ass. And you still have work to do. And this is what is constantly true. The work you're doing can always be summed up into what's next. Not forever and always, just next. What do you have to do tomorrow? What do you have to do this morning? That's maybe what do you have to do in this second? The answer is breathe. Like, are you getting, is this landing? Is this making sense? Like, why even have this conversation? Because.
Well, it is for me.
Yeah.
And anybody out there listening should ask that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Why have this conversation? Like, why this particular topic? Why would we live authentically?
Because why, part of the why is because you don't have to wait to a particular time to find out that it's a lie. It's like, so how would one take stock? How would one know? What are the real tools? I mean, for you. I mean, yeah, for you. I mean, I for myself, I know what works. Which is, I fall off and I notice myself going a little crazy. I'm not here. I'm somewhere else. And, I question, what are my thoughts? So what do you do? What tool? I mean, I think you already gave it. It's called breathe.
That's a biggie.
Yeah.
Anxiety and depression are not disorders. There are tools. And anxiety is literally just telling you, hey, listen, you idiot, just get back in the moment.
Take a look at this.
Yeah. Like, okay, you're way the hell out here. You're way out. And your imagination is so powerful. Look how powerful you are. You've created a panic attack. You're like way out there. And I want to say, psychologically speaking, there are medical anomalies that result in panic attacks. And I don't want to speak to those, but I do want to just give saying that there are medical, biological things too that create anxiety. Conversely, medical, biological things that can create depression, but mostly it's our mind on either spectrum.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. It's our mind, and depression is essentially being like, hey, remember all those moments you missed because you were busy not being in the moment? Remember that? You missed out. And anxiety is like, you're missing out. There are great tools. When I want to create from a place that feels really good, and I start to get gridlock, I start to get this feeling of urgency. It has to happen now. What if it doesn't happen now? That's a really good tool. And then you breathe. And then you say, like, what's next? It is not meant to take you out of the moment, but to bring clarity into the present moment.
Well, something we should say is that when you ask the question, be quiet enough and wait for the answer. What's next?
And I had this really brilliant experience too, where I had a Wednesday recently that was just completely open. I didn't have any, I'm a classic to-do list person and whiteboards and sticky notes and things like that. because I feel like I've had to manage my ADD, my creative, chaotic mind. And I just didn't do that. And I started the day with a text from one of my friends who sells essential oils and who is part of my downline for Young Living Oils. And she's like, oh, here's your code for oils. It's like, I guess I'll be working on oils today. And then that led me to do my website. And then that led me to go to Eve and go to the truth-telling circle with you. And the day just naturally actually filled itself up. And it was a really beautiful unfolding. And then I would say this happened yesterday too, with a girlfriend that came into town. We had this beautiful unfolding, a really wonderful dinner and some drinks. And what I do want to say though, is that bliss does cost something. What's
the cost?
Is you're going to feel the shadow of it too. If you go high on the mountain, there's very thin air up there. So you'll feel that lift for a while, but as is anybody who's ever drank and has had a hangover, or anybody who's fallen in love only to break up, that bliss has another side to it, and that is that's part of the balance of it. It's part of the balance piece. And that's kind of where I feel we could punctuate this conversation. Unless there's something else for you. No? So for the desperate housewives, the desperately seeking to be 125 pounds if you're a female, whatever your ideal weight is, for the confused, the frustrated, the angst, the shadow side of bliss, and that dark place, right? I just can't help but offer and almost plea to say, don't do it yourself. I'm here, and I know these channels, and connect with me at RebekahFreedom.com or TransformNowCounseling.com. And again, Rebekah is Rebekah. I love you all so much, and thank you for listening.